Back on Adapt and Respond with me, RJ Young. If you are new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like this video, and answer the question in the comments below. Are you excited about Oklahoma traveling to the Grove to play Ole Miss in what will probably be a top 15 matchup between the two? Ole Miss is coming off of a really heartbreaking loss to Georgia, 43-35 at Sanford. They were the number 6 team in the country. Georgia was the number 9 team in the country. Ole Miss might fall out of the top 10, but I find that particularly hard to do, given that what Georgia's has been conquering everybody but Alabama so far. And I think that that's a good football team. I think Ole Miss is a good football team. Oklahoma got back on the good foot with a win against South Carolina, but South Carolina is not that good. If anything, South Carolina reminds me a lot of Oklahoma, and that's not necessarily a good thing. OU developed a rushing attack against South Carolina, and that's not nothing, right? Torrey Blaylock rushes for over 100 yards, and they did not need John Mateer to run for a bunch of yards for him to do that. Didn't even need him to throw for a bunch of yards. He failed to throw for 200 yards in this game. But it was the defense that stepped up in a huge way. They were getting home against Lenore Sellers. They were getting INTs, even if they were gimmies and ducks that were thrown. And they kept their foot on South Carolina's neck at South Carolina, which is Oklahoma's defense traveling everywhere but the Cotton Bowl so far this season. If they can play that kind of defense against Lane Kiffin's we're going to try to score on every play offense, OU's got a shot here. The difference, I think, is how good is John Mateer going to be at taking care of the football? Because that Ole Miss defense is opportunistic. Did it get 45 hung on it today? Yes, because it got run on for 221 yards by Georgia. I don't think Oklahoma's capable of running for 200 yards on Ole Miss. However, I don't think that Oklahoma is as bad throwing the football as they showed in their win against South Carolina. But that's also another thing. Gunnar Stockton wasn't bad. He was great. He 289, 4 TDs, 5 total TDs. He was good running the ball. As a matter of fact, the stat line he put up against Ole Miss might be the kind of stat line that John Mateer has to put up for Oklahoma to win that game. And every single game Oklahoma plays from here on out is against a top 25 team, with no one being ranked worse going into week 8 than Missouri, who's ranked number 16 in this thing. And if we're really going to dig into this and we're going to ask questions about what we expect from Ole Miss and what they're playing for, let's not be coy about it. They can still make it to the college football playoff, and they can still make it to the SEC championship game if things break their way. But will they? As both these teams are 6-1 and on a collision trajectory, this is a play-in game for me. This is the winner of this game gets to stay alive in the college football playoff conversation, the SEC championship conversation. The loser of this game does not. So you got Trinidad Chambliss, who has completed 65% of his passes so far this season for over 1,200 yards, about 1,286, and he's also been dynamic running the football. But you've also got Kewan Lacey, who was held in check by that Georgia defense. This is a guy that the week before had rushed for 142 yards. The idea that Ole Miss couldn't run on Georgia's defense is important. If they can't run on Oklahoma's defense, it might be this kind of game. But I don't expect that to be it again. I expect Lane Kiffin to come up with a better way for his run game to get going so he does not have to depend on Trinidad Chambliss's arm and the hands of his wide receivers to get some offense, even as they scored on their first 5 drives against Georgia. This is basically a question of, do you think Oklahoma's defense is better than Georgia's defense? I think they're similar. I think they're about the same. I also think that Georgia's defense knows how to win in tight moments, and we have not quite seen that from Oklahoma in games that they got to win, like the one that they lost against Texas, the Texas team that nearly lost to Kentucky tonight. Mateer, though, who has missed a game, just like Trinidad Chambliss came off the bench, he's completed 64% of his passes for just over 1,400 yards. He's averaged about 283 yards passing per game, and he is not your leading rusher. That's now Torrey Blaylock, but again, Oklahoma's run game has not been good. It's been non-existent up until this one. I mean, they're averaging, I think it's, what is it? It's something awful, because Torrey Blaylock is averaging about 4.3 yards per carry on the season. Mateer is averaging 3.5, but that's with sacks thrown in there. And then you fall off a cliff. You're talking not 5 for 20, or it's 21 carries for 68 yards. You're talking about Xavier Robinson, who got most of his carries today against South Carolina. I still don't know what's going on in that running backs room, and I would like to know what at all, if anything, is going to change. But it's going to be difficult for anybody that's not an Oklahoma fan to pick Oklahoma to win this game, even as you understand that the Sooners look really good up until the 23-6 loss to Texas. Ole Miss, on the other hand, feels like a team that should be undefeated. It feels like a team that let a win against Stanford slip through its hands, as opposed to it got beat. It got absolutely demolished. That is what Oklahoma did against Texas. It got destroyed. And to see Kentucky put the clamps on that Texas offense is not a great look for Brent Venables and that OU defense. You could say that Texas got up for the rivalry game. You could say that Oklahoma had a bad day and Texas had a great day. But the facts are, when Kentucky's holding everybody else in check and you're not, it's just not a good look. Meanwhile, Ole Miss has got to feel like, no, we're still in this. All we got to do is get past a top 15 Oklahoma, and that's going to look really good on our resume when it comes time to start playing football games in December, in January, which is where Ole Miss ultimately wants to be. I don't think that Lane Kiffin and that NIL collective built this team to go win the SEC championship. It's a nice to have. The bar for them is to make the playoff. That's what they want. They want to make the college football playoff in 2025. To do that, they got to beat Oklahoma. I don't see a loss to Oklahoma being... You can't lose to Oklahoma and make the college football playoff for Ole Miss. I don't see it that way. Same thing I think is true for Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's got an easier road, easier being they got more ranked opponents that they could beat. But because Ole Miss isn't as backloaded as OU is, this is important for them. They got to go get this. And this is at home. This would be tremendous if OU could go on the road and get what might be a top 10 victory against Ole Miss, even now, at the Grove in Oxford. For Ole Miss, is what you should be doing in 2025. That's how I would feel if I was a Rebels fan. And I don't begrudge you if you do. I think that that's right as it should be and right where you are.